Well,
all very silent, you.
It's amazing how much there is going on out there. Everyone's like, it's Monday evening. Oh my Lord, what's going on? Hopefully everyone's going to get a little bit more lively. Oh, Tony's got a TV going on in the background just to keep himself entertained. Evening, Peter. I've got a challenge for you. You need to drink 5 beers whilst I'm talking tonight, otherwise I'll be seriously unimpressed.
No, I'm not going to.
I'll be saying the word goal every other second. So you have to drink
I'm not going to let Carl Thorne talk me into that tonight. It's ridiculous. I had to catch up watching a video afterwards.
Another thing.
It was his idea.
Well, maybe you just turn the tables. You know, Carl set the bar.
Bar.
He needs to. Exactly. He needs to live and die by the sword. Surely, he just needs to, return the favour.
I couldn't cope with the virtual dinghy show bar at the weekend.
I must admit, I didn't get into that. How was it? Was it good?
It was all right. I think it was surprisingly effective, really.
Excellent.
Making the most of a bad job.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not exactly the ideal scenario, is it, at the moment?
But there's quite a bit going on. It's a good excuse to do some deals.
Good. And how is the aero class all speeding along?
I think it's looking good for the year. I think as good as we can hope at this stage, and gathering momentum over the next couple of months.
Cool.
We've got another aero arriving in the dinghy park in the next couple of weeks.
We have. Are you referring to Kathy?
Kathy, yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
She's coming down from Chew Valley, and she's been very effective at Chew, organising the local fleet there. So I look forward to her getting us all organised.
Yeah. When I saw senior dinghy instructor on her application,
Yeah. I can see the RS Aero Lymington Fleet captaincy coming available anytime soon for her.
Yes, she's more than happy to get into that one.
Yeah.
Gareth, do you want to wait a little bit, or are you happy that we're all kind of in the house and everyone's good to go?
I think so. Just what time is it? Oh, there's a couple of others. Just hang on a second. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. That's fine. That's absolutely fine.
Simon. Hi, Simon.
Hi there. Sorry I'm late.
That's okay. Even Hugh beat you this week.
I know. It's quite impressive, that, isn't it? You know, be late to my own funeral, or certainly my own birthday, which shouldn't be a massive surprise. I was definitely trying a bit harder this week. I hope you all forgive me for my slight faux pas last week. Only a slight one, obviously.
Forgiven, Hugh.
Yeah. Well, I obviously got some serious drinking to do.
Atwell opted to stick with his original on-field decision.
Okay.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right, excellent.
A bit of French refereeing coming in there.
Hopefully. Right. Okay. So let's just do that.
I'm muted everybody now. Are you ready, Hugh?
Yeah, I'm all pretty good. All pretty ready. 2 seconds. Just give me 10 seconds. Just get one thing. Cool. I'm good. Right. Are you happy? Oh, Nick Ingram's upside down. That's good work.
Yes, yeah.
Are you dialing in from Australia? Great work. It's a bit like this bloke on this picture. Well, so whilst just letting Nick turn himself from being in Australia up the right way, and Steve's having a go at it too, just a few little words of engagement and enthusiasm from me. It works best, as you know, hopefully those who are involved last time, if it is that you don't just hear my dreary voice droning on This isn't about me just downloading. This is very much a practical opportunity for us to explore some exciting ways and means and opportunities to do some learning. I'm very fortunate and very privileged to have the opportunity to do a little bit of learning through the course of my sailing career and also my current coaching career. So I'm hoping to divulge a few little angles, opportunities and insights that might assist us in our journey towards hanging off a cliff, as that metaphor kind of shows us, but also trying to maximize your potential. And there are multiple ways of doing it, and these that I'm about to show you, exhibit to you and engage you in this evening are just some of the multitude of ways of doing it. So I suppose the first piece is about making sure that this is an engaging environment, and I want to try and make sure that you guys engage in a really as full a way as possible. Last time we did this, Henry Ayres and Catherine Maguire were very positive in providing us opportunities to have a discussion around, and that made it really fruitful and really beneficial. So obviously Tony's going to get picked on, and many others of us on the call this evening. When I say picked on, that's maybe a little bit harsh, but hopefully Henry and Catherine don't feel too mortally wounded from their character assassination last time, and they're back, so that's not too bad a thing.
I'm surprised they've come back. I'm surprised they've come back, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, exactly.
It was awesome.
Yeah, good. Well, hopefully you can infuse a few more others to provide a little bit of insights into their learning journey as well. So, as the picture shows on my first slide, every opportunity we get to go and do what we do in work, life, and everything else is an opportunity to maximise our potential. And I really like the picture that I put on the front here. Because there's nothing much harder than trying to hold onto a cliff whilst you're free climbing. So hopefully that sort of sets at one end of the spectrum. Obviously, what we're not asking everybody to do is go and start hanging off cliffs, but what I am keen to get everybody to do this evening is to start thinking about how it is that whatever you want to learn, that may be learning to tack better or learning to develop a program that's going to help you win the nationals this year for Henry, and be the top lady at the nationals for Catherine, and for Carl to do a 5-minute plank, and Sarah Richards to be the best captain juniors there's ever been, etc., etc., etc. So it's about making sure we can work to the mandate that you guys have and set. And I thought the nice thing to start with was to try and frame it by giving you a little insight into something which is called neuroplasticity. Now, some of you who might be experts in this field will probably know more about this than I, but I really like this bit of video, and I'm just going to play you a video for a few minutes. Hopefully I've got the set. I'm just going to double check my share screen settings. Yes, that is good. And go back to here. So this little video is meant to just provide you a little stimulus.
What's going on in the brain?
If you can't see or hear it, shout.
In order to learn anything, whether it's math, a foreign language, guitar, or how to dribble a basketball, you need to create and strengthen pathways in your brain. Think about shooting a free throw. Know that feeling when you've got it down and don't even have to think about it? That's muscle memory. Here's the thing. Muscle memory lives in the brain, not the muscles. Your brain controls everything your muscles do, and it does this by activating specific neural pathways for each and every movement. These are functional pathways, neurons working together to achieve a goal. Say you're learning how to shoot a free throw. If it's your first time doing it, you don't yet have a pathway for that movement in your brain. You need to create it. Let's use an analogy to look at what's happening in the brain during this time. When you're first learning, your brain is like a forest full of trees and dense foliage, with no clear pathway between point A and point B. As you learn the mechanics of shooting a free throw, you create a trail through the forest. Now you can shoot the free throw because you've created that pathway in your brain, but you probably don't make many shots because it's so new. The pathway isn't very clear yet. In order to improve your free throw, you need to refine and strengthen the free throw pathway in your brain. The way you do that is through practice. Practice gradually widens the trail through the trees, turning it into a dirt road between A and B. You're starting to get pretty good now. You're making more free throws than not. you don't have to think about the mechanics as much. That's because the pathway gets stronger after each practice rep, and you've done a lot of reps. With even more practice, the dirt road turns into a paved road connecting A and B, allowing information to be transmitted at a faster rate. Now you're a 70% free throw shooter, and when you step up to the line, you don't even have to think about it. Eventually, with enough practice, what started as a trail has become a full-blown highway. Now you're a master, draining almost every free throw, and the movement is completely second nature. Scientists call this plasticity, and it's your brain's innate ability to create and strengthen connections between neurons. These connections are the path through the forest. Halo Sport optimizes this process by temporarily increasing plasticity in the part of your brain that controls movement, so that your brain can create and strengthen these pathways faster than you would otherwise. We call this hyperplasticity. When you practice or train in this state, you're able to write muscle memory more effectively, allowing you to get that much more out of your practice. In terms of our analogy, Halo Sport helps you build super highways of muscle memory at an accelerated rate. It's not magic, it's neuroscience.
So I realise that's a sales pitch for a company, but it's a very interesting analogy for what this talk is kind of all about: maximising your potential. Now, I don't know how much that, I'm going to just stop sharing now so I can see some faces. Give you some feedback. Tony, what did you take from that little video?
The old practice makes perfect.
Yeah, you know, it's really quite simple, isn't it? And how they've described that is a very simple model. But I think it's something that it's quite easy for us to forget. And I'll refer Tony back to a conversation we had after last week. So what did you say to me after our last talk? What was your commitment you were making after our last talk?
Don't come back again, Hugh.
Exactly. That was the first thing. And then the second one was?
Yeah, so the second one was, so taking your the whole discussions last week, mine was about, if I'm working backwards from wanting to race and wanting to get better at sailing, wanting to get coaching, wanting to get fitter, wanting to lose weight. So it was all about losing weight in the first instance for me. So, yeah, so 2.5 kilograms in the 2 weeks because of a 1,500 calorie intake. So I think I said 6K. Plus, Catherine was on the same kind of drive as well. So I thought I better, you know, Henry was the same. So I thought I'd do. So it was just that natural. If I want to make progress, I need to, you know, the 6 kilograms I put on during lockdown, I need to lose. You know, I knew how I felt. I remember how I felt when I was, you know, 6 kilograms lighter, and it was better, it was quicker, you know, and you're in control. And I needed to get that first, and in parallel to that, do the fitness, then get back on the water, and then start kind of, you know, sort of fine tuning those points of sale which I don't like, and not just staying on the points of sale that I do like, and then start thinking about, do I shove myself in with the rest of the racers and that dodgy crowd who go out on a Sunday and Wednesday? So that's my that's my general plan, really. I don't think I said all that to you, but that was me thinking.
Yeah. No, well, that's great. And I'm just going to flick back to my share screen now, just because you absolutely brilliantly led us into something that kind of is what this talk's all about. I'm glad that you mentioned all those things, because, you know, effectively you've kind of captured what this area of expertise is kind of really focused on. You know, it's about analyzing your performance so that you can work out what is going to help you. And you obviously very finely, sort of in your perspective, gone straight to, if you look at this little dartboard on the right here, you've gone right, fitness. One thing I can definitely do straight now is fitness. And the things that coaches and athletes need to know is how the physiology and your decision making and the psychology affects performance. And one of the things that we did a little bit last time was go into the questions that I posed, which helped us understand about what our performance could or should be about. And then the little picture on the right there is one way of visually representing how you are in all the areas, such that you can then do something about it. If we don't actually do anything about analysing how we perform across all the areas, then it's actually really easy to, as Tony just said, go and focus on the things that you do every time. And as Henry said last time, oh, well, you know, I turn up and I go racing and I go and do the racing. And if I remember correctly, Henry's outcome to the last talk we had was that Henry was going to go and practice do 3 practice starts before he started each race, and he was going to commit to doing 3 races out of 4 each month. So, you know, those things are ways of getting better. But to start with, part of this journey is about trying to identify what and how, where we're at. So I also wanted to just kind of clarify how and why some people have been unbelievably successful. And this is obviously some stats from Michael Jordan, probably the most successful basketball player on the planet. You know, I have missed more than 9,000 shots. And so what's he saying? What's he saying to us? He's basically saying that, you know, without failing, like my kids are 4 and 2, and all they ever know is failing, because all they're ever doing at the moment is trying to fall over, get up, and fall over and get up, trying to learn to walk. And when all of us do it, but actually some of the time we forget about the fact that we learn most from when we fail, and the pain of failure is something that unfortunately or fortunately I've got a lot of experience with, of helping athletes to succeed, because it's without failure we don't drive ourselves and push ourselves to try and succeed. So I've got a little job for us all to do. So I'm just gonna show this to you now. Athletes benchmark or profile or analyze. Why do they do that? So I'm going to ask each of you to do a little job. So on your, hopefully you got a notepad, or you can probably remember. Can you just make a list of the 5 things that contributed to the last race or the last performance you didn't quite go so well for you at the club? It might, hopefully it'll be 5. If it's not 5, then it doesn't really matter. But just can everybody take like 30 seconds now to do a little bit of thinking about that was, and then I'll go around a few of us in the audience after we've had. Let's make it a minute, because that'll give everybody a bit of a chance. And I'm just gonna be quiet for a little bit now and get you guys to do some thinking. So make a list of 5 things that contributed to maybe that performance that wasn't so good. Or if you're a person that wants to work on super strengths, then think about the reasons that it actually 5 things that contributed towards you being super good. So it doesn't matter which way, but then we'll go through that. So it's now 2017. So I will, it's 2018, just gone 2018. So at 2019, then I'll be asking a few people to make some comments. So I'm going to stop sharing on that particular page. And if you guys could do a bit of thinking and jot down a few ideas, then we will have a little chat in a minute, in 45 seconds time. So Gareth Griffiths looks studious. Henry is beavering away. He's been doing lots of homework since last time. He's got many things he's fine-tuned already.
I've had Gareth at my house fine-tuning my boats.
Excellent. Well, that's part of the journey. That's
cold
part of the journey.
Cash.
Cold hard cash. Well, I'm sure he did it for a very beneficial LTSC rate. Okay, yeah. So this is like countdown. Okay, so we've obviously, I've picked on the usual reprobate, so they're off the limelight right now. But maybe a few of our other participants this evening could offer up a few areas that are areas of interest for them that could help contribute to either them being even more successful, or from opportunities that they want to get better at. And it would be way better if people could make suggestions rather than me have to try and drag bits out of people. So anybody got any little insights? Oh, Gareth.
Evening, guys. All right, yeah, so I didn't get many races in this year. but I think all of them had a current theme. So my 5 points are bad tacking, poor leadership as a helmsman, lack of starting confidence, lack of boat prep, as in I hadn't resolved issues that I knew would be problems, and not getting my head out of the boat while I'm sailing because of that.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Gareth. Has anybody else got the? Has anybody else got a few? Doesn't have to be 5. Gareth's obviously done a great job, but what about the Richards household? How about the Richards household or Simon?
I can share some.
Simon, yeah.
So the last race I can remember was the Datchet Flyer, which was hideous for me because it was light. And so the things that I think contributed to drifting backwards down the fleet were being heavy. Spotting the shifts, keeping clear air, and just general downwind technique in light air.
Okay. Cool. Great. Nice. Caroline's just turned her video on. Caroline, have you some insights for us?
Hi all. So the last race I remember doing, and it's a very long time ago, I think, was a club race. So a few things that I can remember is we were late to the start area, which is one of my pet hates, because I think we were faffing with the boat that wasn't ready to go. We're relatively new members to Lymington, so understanding the course and where all the buoys are was quite a challenge for us. And also we didn't know what the tide was doing, so we had to work that out as we were going around. And because we hadn't been in the boat long, the Merlin setup we'd completely forgotten a lot about. They were to pull everything to, and then fitness levels were poor as well.
Okay, very good. Okay, no, that's good. Excellent. Thank you very much. Anybody else? Anybody else who wants to offer up some opportunities? Or there's a waving hand in Stuart's household.
That's better. Unmute. It's an odd one actually. One we picked up on was when you go downwind, you position yourself to go around a mark. There's a boat in front of you. You get to the buoy, and you think, "Oh, why the hell have I put myself here?" When the boat goes round the buoy and it's going round to starboard, and the reason you put yourself there is because you knew you were going round to port, and you follow the boat in front.
Okay.
Why do you do that?
Okay. Yeah. That's slightly similar to our previous one about course and things like that. Yeah, fair enough. Okay. Anything else, Stuart?
Well, the other thing is actually in a folk boat, probably the one thing we do right is we've been sailing, the 3 of us in the boat, for 12 years together. So we don't talk very much anymore. We just do it. We've had all the problems. We know how to do them.
Good. Yeah. Okay. Confidence. Okay, brilliant. Excellent.
It's not, and the other thing is when you make a bad start, you really do have to bail out soon. And sometimes you just don't remember that.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
And we all do a bad start sometimes. Sometimes we get the timing wrong. Sometimes we just get sat on. Sometimes it's all wrong. But we still sometimes just don't accept the fact that's where we are.
Yes, I don't know who it was the other day had a starting techniques talk.
Yeah.
And they only had 2 boats on the course. And actually you never have a start when there's only 2 boats on the course. 5 boats on top of you.
Yeah. Well, especially here in Lymington when there's tide taking you down towards one end and everyone's piled up at that end trying to fight for that end. Any others? Who else we got? Some other contributors. Who's next? Or is everybody go? Oh, Claire's household. Hello, Claire's household. Apologies,
Hi,
I've only got the name that you've got on your WhatsApp. On your
that's
Zoom
right.
thing.
Yeah, Thursdays I'm Claire. Okay, right. I'm trying to learn a tricky boat to sail, and I'm not making as much progress as I would like. What sort of steps do I need to take to make more progress faster?
Okay. Okay. What sort of boat?
It's a must-have skiff.
Okay. Yeah. Fine. Fine. So there's a lion's share of boat handling that it's going to be required.
It's fighting me quite well.
It's got some good bit of attitude. It's obviously, yes. Okay. Now that's fair enough. All right. I would straight away and immediately on that one, I'd say there's a huge amount of boat handling focus that we probably want to put into that to be able to get to be able to put the boat where you want to on the race course. So quite a lot of practice of getting out on the water and doing plenty of tacks and jibes and hoists and drops, in addition to even land drills of going and getting on the boat with it in the boat part and tying it down to the trolley and walking backwards and forwards and clipping on and going out on the wire and just doing all the manual things that are needed for you doing without the risk of falling in or getting wet or whatever.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so land drills. I don't know if Carl's on the call, but something I did with Carl Thorne and his aero was we just put the boat on the grass and we just went and sat in it and got the hiking strap set to the right length and got it in a position where we could then just swing it around and tack and jibe it and whatever, so that we just got the basics of his muscle memory of how he did things in his boat the same every time. Because it's amazing how many people actually do things different from tack to tack and do things and sitting in the boat and positioning yourself to make it easier for you to do the things you do in the boat is really easy to just, oh, I've always done it that way, or you know, you when you get the benefit of somebody else coming and having a little bit of a view from outside what you do, it's quite nice and good to then for you to be able to get somebody to copy what you do so you can see it from outside, and then you get a chance to be like, oh, actually, you know. And one of the things that I find is really quite useful that I did with Carl was Carl would be sailing about in a certain way and we just sat it on the grass and Carl did a tack and then I got and copied exactly how he did his tack. He's like, no, I don't do that. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, that's what you do. Let's then rethink how we might go about doing that. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an answer straight away.
Okay. Thanks for that. A quick observation. There was when we're teaching the kids, we use land drills all the time. We're just doing land drill after land drill, and we never. I'm just thinking as you're saying, then I don't see land drills taking place at all on the lawn or.
So one of the things I remember doing a specific session for my dad at my old home sailing club back at Down Sailing Club. I don't know if any of you have ever been to Down Sailing Club, but basically it's a shingle beach facing east on the Kent coast. Not a particularly hospitable place when it's blowing from the northeast. And I went and did a training session for those guys. You know, I think it was just on, you know, for a youth program, and I got somebody to bring their laser off the beach. And it was a windy, horrible day, and we brought the laser inside, and I got people to sit in the boat and hike with all the audience holding the boat, so that they could then pretend to make the boat do being waves, and then the person hiking had something to load against. And it was really interesting when we got everybody in the room to then alternate around and have a go, how much they got to see and feel how much impact and load they could put into the boat by getting their hiking posture right. And one of the things that we often forget when we sail hiking boats, and I realize some people don't sail hiking boats in this and they're cool, but a lot of people do, is actually how we set our feet, legs and posture up in the boat to be able to be efficient with how we use our leverage and our righting moment. And I think you're right, Tony. We should definitely do that. We should get a boat and we should all hold it, or we should stick it on the grass, and we should get people to do that more, because that's what we do when we teach the kids. And it's no different when we're trying to relearn skills. When we're thinking about this stuff, it's about developing the correct muscle memory rather than, you know, continuing on the right stuff. And if I refer us back to that piece of video I showed at the beginning, Tony, what was one of the things you took from that about that neuroplasticity?
Practice Practice makes perfect.
Practice makes perfect, right? And so what that little video says to me, is that when we practice, our brain is then effectively creating that super highway in our head of connection between the specific job our hand does to hold the tiller, pull the main sheet or whatever. And the more we practice, effectively, the more our brain wraps this stuff called myelin around that neural network, that pathway. So the more we practice and the more ways we have of looking at that problem, and when we're doing it, the other way of doing it is, how many people will remember being at school and doing their times table by having to shout it out loud with the teacher as they did it? Right, so that's and there are educationists in here, but if you went and got on your boat on the land and did your land drills whilst talking it through, and then and then you got off it and then you watch somebody showing you how you do it, all of a sudden you've got 3 different ways that you personally are experiencing your learning to validate your personal learning model, and that becomes a really sticky neural network in your head. So I can see Henry looking back at the ceiling now, thinking about how he's going to get his phantom into the boat park with enough people to sort of throw him around a bit to do his downwind technique. But I think it's a really good idea, because actually one of the things that really benefited out of the session I did with those kids was that they all got to see and feel how much energy you could put into the boat, because I obviously got on and I had a bit of a go, and I was throwing my weight around, and everybody was holding the boat. And then when other people got in the boat, there was quite a difference in how much energy people were putting into the boat. And I think that's quite a valuable lesson for us to take forwards. I realised that Stuart's folk boat might not be quite the same, but Stuart's folk boat still will benefit from everybody hiking super hard when you go out wind, or being really energetic when they're trimming spinnakers, or all their body weight coordinating when attacking. So some of these instances, obviously just little stories along the side, but they have quite a value and a meaning to what we're trying to do here. So I'm just going to flick back to my little presentation just to keep us on track with what we're doing. But I really appreciate all the insights. And if, before I go back to that, has anybody else got any other insights that are different to those that have been mentioned so far that they'd really like us to come back to a little bit later? Because I will be referring back to these later on. Anybody else? Steve was feverishly beavering away and writing stuff down earlier on. I don't know if Steve's got anything to contribute and share with us. Or you're muted,
sometimes
Steve.
You going to speak, Steve? While Steve's learning how to unmute himself,
go on then,
one of the things that sometimes I get is I just don't trust in myself. I've been sailing since I was 6 and racing since I was about 8 or 9, and I've done it a lot of places all over the world and a lot of times. And sometimes I just need to think, actually, you are really good at this. Just get on with it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of that mental block.
Yeah.
It's quite big.
Okay. I like that. Yeah. There's a positive. So one of the reasons I said it doesn't have to be about something you need to be better at, as in it's a weakness you're trying to get better. Equally, a lot of these things are about trying to create super strengths. Yeah, winning the nationals for Henry is as much about having the super strengths of being super fast upwind or downwind at starting as it is about the things that potentially could need to be better. And that's what I'm a massive big fan about trying to help people consider. Steve,
can we just fix this winning the nationals thing? I'm not going to win the nationals.
Henry, I've already put my bet on.
Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah, the bookies have got a good set of numbers at the moment. We'll be fine.
Yeah. Henry, we got the Phantom Nationals at Leamington in 2025, mate. It's all yours.
There for the taking.
All right.
You got a time.
I mean, what I meant was I'm not going to win them this year.
There we go. You see, that's the growth mindset. That's the not yet, as opposed to the not. Right. So this is the last slide I was just on. So athletes benchmark why. Well, they benchmark to try and make sure that we're taking the whole picture of performance into account. Yeah, psychological, physiological, tactical, technique, psychological. And I suppose the key bit is then how we address these. And I'll come back to the part of the presentation that I showed you the last time we did a talk. And the last time we went through this process, this winning process, I said, okay, what's your clear performance goal? And obviously there's an example there, gold medal in Rio, in Tokyo. And then we've spent a bit of time about, identifying this, what it takes to win. And really now this talk this evening is about, maximizing this potential by understanding us, benchmarking. Some call it benchmarking, performance profiling. But that's really, this is what we did before. So the likes of Carl and Dave and Catherine, I want to win the nationals. How do we do that? We need to achieve these results. How do we do that? Right, we have to be finishing in these positions for these results. How do we do that? So we keep just asking more questions, and that helps us get to a point where we understand the problem we're trying to solve. But the content of what we're discussing here is about, well, okay, how do we go about doing that? And this is the key bit, is that how do you assess your performance? So right now, on the chat or on the audio, whatever, so how do you guys go about assessing how good you are across the different areas? Is it by doing what I've just asked you to do, come up with 5 things and then just have those as reminders? How do you keep on track with what you're trying to get better at? How do you get yourself an overview of what how you're trying to get better?
I use the what do you call them? The radar charts, like you had from John Emmett's book.
Yeah. So performance profile that you might have seen. Let's just go past that. One of these. What's called a goalscape, which is like the dartboard that I showed you a few stages before. Stuart, Simon, how have you used those?
Well, I've mainly used it to assess what I think my strengths and weaknesses are, and then work one by one through them, and as one improves, then really sort of picking off what's the worst skill at a time and focusing on that until it's at an average level or better than average, and then going to the next one and working on that.
Yeah,
and just sort of gives a reference point as to where to focus the effort, which will make the biggest difference in the next races. Great.
Yeah, so this is a tool that's available online, and it's has a capacity, and I'll run through it. I'll just run through a little scenario for you here, so you can just see how it works. So this tool, and this is an example of my one that I run for my coaching modules that I have for my mentoring support I provide for people. So you can create the areas that you believe are the important ones. And so for the learning modules, my time and awards are learning modules. I basically have 9 meteorology rules, as you can see them around here. And you can
don't see your screen,
hang
by
on.
the way.
Many apologies. Sorry, I'll switch to that. There we go. Right. So the way this tool works is you can add in goals. Oops. Let's just go back to. So you can add goals. So it might be. Let's just pick on one that somebody said earlier. Let's pick on understanding navigation. Okay, so that was from Caroline. Yeah, needed to understand the course and sort of the tide. Yeah. So that might be something that Caroline might be keen on improving on. So Caroline, just work with me here. So what might help that goal, that us improving on that goal? what sub parts of that might we think is important to be able to tick off to get better at doing a better job of understanding course and all that sort of thing?
Probably first one comes to mind is looking maybe at tidal flows in the local area.
Yeah.
And tide or when it changes.
Yeah.
And then the navigation side, maybe looking at the course card of where the buoys are.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so just some simple little tasks. And as you can see, if I work around this here, if we look at and there's already been starting mentioned. So Gareth said starting, and in starting, so Gareth, how are we? And the way this tool works is, if we pick on Gareth or use Gareth as a little example here. So Gareth, if you accept that I've specified positioning, boat handling, and acceleration. How good are we on a scale of 0 to 100 on our positioning for starting in your boat?
In reality, quite poor. But
how important is starting positioning for you in Lymington?
Yeah, very important.
All right.
Yeah.
So on this tool, what we can do is you can change the importance of that. Yeah. So as you can see here, I can make positioning super important, or not very important. Yeah. And so depending on your specific belief, so Gareth could be like, well, it's 50% of a race. So it's pretty important for our overall starting stuff. So Gareth, how good are you at your starting?
On a good day, awesome.
Yeah. But on average?
But on average, quite poor, probably 3 out of 10 at the moment.
Right. So, and as we get, 30%. Right. So you can see how this tool works is you gradually start, once you've simply outlined the areas that you think are important, and you then said, well, what does that make, what makes up starting? All of a sudden you can see here that basically the progress that you make on each of these areas starts to fill up the tank, as it were. And as you get better at those, it shows you how you've progressed. So that's one of the ways that this tool works. So for Caroline, apologies, navigation and tide, well, those are fairly easy ticket options. So we would assume that tide changes, it might be 50% of getting this piece right, and it won't take long for you to be at 100% on tide changes. And getting the course card, well, again, that's just a case of getting it on the boat and making sure you look at it. So that that could easily and fairly quickly, by specifying the goal and having it as part of your target, be pretty well solved, which would make quite a massive difference to your performance the next time you go out in the water. So that's one tool. So if I just I asked for another little bit of input. So for Claire, and apologies, I didn't get Claire's the young man who I was speaking to.
Well, I'm super pleased that it was a young man.
Yes, exactly. So in this area of boat handling, which is what you were focused on earlier, obviously in my model just here, it's really quite simple. But in tacking, jibing, windward, and leeward, let's just play a little scenario through with you here. So how good are you at your tacking? And as you can see here, I've got a couple of little brackets here, and they're just examples. So how good are you at your under 5 knots tacking?
I'm okay at 5 knots. Under 5 knots is okay.
Yeah. So let's say that's 75%. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then 6 to 10 knots.
6 to 10. That's okay. I'm still comfortable at 6 to 10. That's still good.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say actually within our tacking, then we probably need to make a couple more little. Oops. Let's just go back. Let's add one in next to here. So we're going to 6 to 10. So let's go 11 to 18. So how good are we in 11 to 18 knots?
Right, that's various stages of out of control at that sort of point.
Okay, so we can look at out of control. So let's show the details, right? So we're at various stages of out of control. So in that little one there, might we say that we are where are we? 50%?
Up to about 14 knots. I could probably sail the boat at 14 knots. I'm trying to look for a way back in.
Okay, fine. Okay, all right, fine. So, you know, for your example here, then actually we need to be a bit more specific. So we need to not make that 11 to 18. So that's probably 11 to 15. And then we'd add another goal in, which is basically from 16 to 20 knots.
Yeah, that's survival stuff, really.
Yeah. So and then once we started to analyze these, okay, so for 11 to 15, that's not too bad, say 50%, and then 16 to 20, that's the area where we're not quite so good. So maybe we're at like 25, 30% or something like that.
Yeah.
So already we can start to say to ourselves that in our performance, the tacking is an area that we've got some opportunities to in the breezy stuff. And I was like, yeah, fine, whatever. But part of this journey is about holding yourself to account. Part of this journey is about being able to be honest, as the presentation I was showing earlier, about what you're trying to achieve, and honest about where the areas you need to look to improve on. And if we can be honest, that helps us then create a strategy. So if we go back to this one, then so what can we do in this space around 16 to 20 knots? How could we look to improve our performance in this area?
Well, I just think it's time in the water. The more time I spend in any particular boat, the better I get at it. Yeah. But the improvements are slow, and in this boat, it's a scary change.
Okay. And what else could we do? So to the rest of the room, so Nick Ingram, Sarah Richards, Steve, what other opportunities are there for the Musto sailor to get better other than just time on the water? How else could he help himself get better? Nick's pondering.
Fitness.
Fitness, yeah.
Right,
Henry, how else? Henry, how might you get better at your tacking in 16 to 20 knots if it's too windy and you still want to learn some of it?
Well, practice on the land, like you were saying. Yeah. You can go through it over and over again whilst you're on the bank.
What else have we got now that's a massive benefit because of Mr. Google that allows us to see other people do it?
Video.
Videos.
Copy. Yeah. So, Catherine, how much YouTube video is there of Merlin tacking or jibing that you can look at?
Me?
Yeah.
Loads. There was loads of everything, I think.
Yeah. So in our Musto skiff, I know for a fact that there are some very good sailors inside the Musto skiff. So obviously you've got a good high benchmark there, and the likelihood is that there's huge amount of people that have put their GoPro on and gone and done YouTube tacking of over 16 to 20 knots, because everybody will have the same issue. So one of the great learning opportunities that we have these days, there's going to be what's called in the business the YouTube expert generation, where they've just absorbed video after video after video to help them with their learning. And as I was just saying earlier, get the boat on the land, do your drill on the land, so the muscle memory is right, is almost as good as doing it in reality. And doing the video is also one other way of doing it. And there isn't one other last way. There's another way that you might do it. So has anybody ever heard of visualization? Simon's nodding. Yeah. So Simon, just explain to us how you've used visualization in the past.
Sitting on the tube years ago, practicing helming my Laser 2. So visualizing the feel of the tiller, visualizing what it feels like when the boat's flat, when the boat's heeled. You can just
excellent, great.
Get a surprising feel for it by closing your eyes and pondering it.
Simon, that's great. Thank you very much for that insight. Love it. So hopefully, even just exploring that little opportunity there gives us some really good sticky learning opportunities that are going to help us take our road through the forest and make it more of a super highway rather than a dirt path. Because now we can go, okay, in 16 to 20 knots, yeah, I can go on the water and do that. but how many times do I actually get to go sailing in 16 to 20 knots? Well, not very often. So one of the things I can do is Tony's like, yeah, mate, well, with the kids, we do it all the time. Get the boat on the land and do your land drills. Strap the boat down to the trailer, stick it on the grass, get a buddy and help you spin it around and whatever. YouTube videos and visualization are hugely powerful. Visualization helped Steve Backley win a bronze medal at the Olympics, purely from visualizing for the year's preparation before the games. Why did he have to prepare only by using visualization? Because he nailed his shoulder so badly, he was only able to throw the javelin 3 times in that year of competing and won a bronze medal. Yeah, so the visual stimulus that you get from mental rehearsal is absolutely killer. Absolute killer. I'm sort of digressing a little bit, but hopefully that gives you a really solid and strong view of how we can break things down into the component parts that will help you provide some opportunity to get better at this skill. As I said, this tool is a tool that's available and can be used, but it isn't the only one. So I'm just going to flick back to a different shared screen so that you can have an insight into some of the others that I use with my Olympic sailors and people that I coach. So Goalscape is one means of doing it. We can, have I got the right one shared? Yes, I have. So yeah, Goalscape's one means of doing it. The other, you know, some people like asking themselves questions, which is what we did last time we were on the call. You know, what's the performance question? Right, I want to get better at starts. How do we do that? How do we track it? How do we know we've achieved it? And then other people like numbers. And this is a performance profile. Carl's just got on the call. Nice to see you, Carl. And this is a performance profile that I have run with Carl and Dave and their Scorpion. And Carl won't mind me showing it, but it is a little bit out of date at the moment, so that's fine. So he's not giving any secrets away here. The point of this one is similar to the dartboard, but it's quite nice for people to sort of, for some people like it a little bit better. You know, so these are the starting skills. These are our racing skills, starting, upwind, downwind. So you break all of your sport down into all the various different areas you could have that are important. And I think you'll find actually this isn't a Carl one, because it's got foiling transitions in here. Anyway, I'm not sure how much foiling you get doing in a Scorpion, but hey, maybe that's the top secret bit I shouldn't have said about. Sorry, Carl. But the importance down the left column is how important it is for you. And as you can see, some of them, they aren't as important. But the key piece in here is a rating. And why do we do all this? We're doing all this to try and create a way of you guys taking this super complicated sport and creating areas to focus on. And those areas aren't just bad, but they are good, as the good areas as well. I'm very keen that people work on super strengths as well as the areas that they want to get better at, and the weight they might want to lose and the fitness they want to improve at. For me, it's super vital that if Tony is a weapon downwind pumping his solo mainsail because he's so super fit, we want to make sure that he is Iron Man, you know, he's got law and order in full effect when he goes downwind, so that he's like an absolute weapon. But that's just as important as being the man who's you know, working on all the little other bits that's going to contribute towards that improvement of performance. So this is another way, and I suppose I wanted to make sure that people could choose the way they thought it appropriate to them to try and help them improve their performance. So just as a little recap, this is obviously one way, and we could have gone through this and gone through some of these, but I really like the feedback I got from you guys around the Goalscape about how and what you thought were the important bits for that. When you use a spreadsheet version like this, then you have to create your little strategy, which is then another column out to the right of how you're going to get better. And the nice thing about the Goalscape, as I'll just flick back to you here, is that you get a chance to, in situ, have the notes pane. Can everybody see the Goalscape here? Yeah. can see for that goal, for the boat handling goal, we're on here. Okay, so and in tacking, and in when we looked, if I dial into that tacking, we've already now said that this stuff is vital for us doing our tacking. So probably we want to put it in here. Yeah. So we now got the ability for us to dial back out. Tacking is one portion of boat handling, and then for our musto, then actually this probably becomes a lot more important. Yeah. And I'm not being unkind. I'm just you know, but anybody who sells a musto skip,
absolutely nails it, really.
yeah. So if I now try and just sort of bring this together a little bit, you guys are very good enough to give me some feedback earlier, and I'm just gonna follow back up with some of the things you guys said, because I think it's vital that that we make sure that these sessions about learning that you guys are going to do and help you really capture that. So so Gareth, sorry, Stuart. Having where's Stuart? Let me just get off this slide and make sure I can look people in the eye. That always puts the fear of God in them. Where is Stuart? Stuart, put your video on. We need to see your eyes. Oh, he's gone. He's done the typical switch me off, because I'm going to ask him questions again. Maybe not then. Henry. Come on, Henry. Oh, no, Stuart's there. Stuart. So Stuart, can you turn your microphone on, because I need to ask you another little question. It's like, oh, I thought you'd gone.
Too complicated.
Too complicated.
Too complicated.
Too complicated. So, Stuart, for our little opportunity around the downwind positioning, what is the? Oh, I'm going to turn myself down. What in terms of helping you with your performance could we help do to improve that opportunity you flagged up earlier?
Well, it wasn't really a problem with downwind positioning. We positioned ourselves absolutely perfectly for a port rounding. But unfortunately, very stupidly, navigational-wise, we followed the boat when rounded on starboard tack. And I was puzzled why I put myself where I did when I was going around the buoy the other way, when I knew which way to go round, and it made it awkward for us. And yet, you know, one of those silly things, had to retire. It's a lemming problem. You follow everybody else.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting you say that, because obviously somebody else mentioned about the fact that there was some communications opportunities and leadership in their boat as well. You know, I think one of the things that really is useful that we can do now in the next month we've got is within the boats that we have sailed for ages and just assume to step back into the boat back on April well, depends how keen you are, but on April the 1st, when you get a chance to go back sailing again, one of the things that everybody could do a really good job of for their team and for themselves is get absolute clarity in the routines that are going to run on the boat. Who's responsible? What gets said when? How do we say things? And the language that there is around that, because whilst we've discussed quite a bit around some single-handers this evening, actually one of the key bits in here is, I think, is a really important part that a lot of the double-handed boats, and certainly for Caroline, this is pretty massive. And actually for the double-handed boats, this area here can be something that is really worth spending plenty of time on. The communication side of things and getting that, the routines and the structure around those routines, so that the boat handling all happens at the right time and the right timeline is important. But also, so as Stuart said, that the communication is there such that it may have been there hasn't been a need to do much communication in the past, because you've sailed for every week and a Wednesday and a Saturday and a Sunday, but now we haven't sailed for the last 12 months regularly. So it would be a really good idea in the next 3 weeks to get a little bit of a chat with your mates, even if it is you go and have a little nice social Zoom call, glass of wine, beer, whatever, and get yourself really fine-tuned into, when we come to a mark and when we do this, do yourself a little quiz, ask yourself a few questions. Tony, what do you say when it is that I go round, that I'm about to bear away around a wheel mark? Oh, I don't know, Tony. What do you say? You know, so that you give yourselves a chance to check that all through before you get to go on the water. So I'm going to challenge Henry here. So Henry, in your having thought a little bit about our last conversation and looking at our performance profile, then what areas of what you're considering are key areas for you to focus on for your performance to keep progressing rapidly up your learning curve?
So preparation. So the boats come home and I've spent 3 solid days because I had to have some time off of work and obviously couldn't go anywhere. Spent 3 days working on the boat, done all those jobs that need to be done. Silly things like, you know, like halyard lock rather than a cleat at the bottom of the mast, and replace the slot gasket and all of those things. Make sure the rig is absolutely spot on. Physical. So Zwift is getting a bit of a bashing.
Right.
I intend to be able to hike for longer. And I've been pretty good at Lymington. I've been pretty sailing the Phantom. You've got to be pretty tough. You have to be pretty hard, especially at Lymington when you get, like, you know, sea breezes on a Wednesday evening and a lot of chop, wind over tide. It's quite a rough ride, and I've been pretty good at out hiking the competition, and I intend to be even better at that. So a lot of work on physical, lose a bit of weight because it makes it easier to move around the boat if you're a stone lighter. And then just the other thing is the mental thing, is that I'm preparing myself when we are allowed to go, when sailing becomes a thing again, that I'm there. There's no reason I can't be there at 7 o'clock on a Sunday morning. Make sure the boat is absolutely spot on, make sure I'm absolutely spot on, and then leave in plenty of time, well fed and watered and ready to go and practice for a bit.
Nice. Sounds awesome. That's so all of the things you described there are really, the way you've been describing it has become very sort of positive and engaging. You know, you've really obviously taken on done a lot of thinking about how it is you're kind of considering your preparation, the boat prep, the physical prep, you know, and how you're going to take on the attitude towards learning is really quite positive. I'd like to build on that last point you said about the physical preparation, because there's also some good work that Catherine and Carl have been doing on this fitness space. So guys, would you mind just sharing something around the little chat we had the other day around this fitness target? Because I think there's some really useful aspects around what we discussed that we might share with a few other people that would encourage a few more others to get on the bandwagon. Catherine, would you mind saying a few words about what we chatted about and how we're going to go about the improvements?
Yeah, we had a chat about kind of benchmarking where our fitness was. I think that's the biggest thing that we've, well, kind of both got to. And obviously we'd kind of set out what the goal was that we wanted to achieve. So we kind of know where we want to go, know where we are, and then we've kind of now putting individual plans into place to make that happen.
So if I just jump in, so Catherine's the last time we chatted, Catherine was very clear on wanting to be the first lady at the Nationals, her team being the first female team at the Nationals, and finished top 10. And part of that was about making sure that they had the ability to be as fit as they possibly could be. And on that call, and on that particular moment, in the call last time, then I started asking questions and making some points, which spawned this conversation that we had the other day. And the things I started asking was, okay, if you want to be the fittest you can and therefore win the nationals as the first female crew in top 10 as a very, very light team, how in the world do we work out what that actually means? And what Catherine's nicely sort of outlined there is kind of the means by which we went to do that. And I suppose I'll just get Carl to just speak to that a little bit now, if that's possible. He says, Carl, what are the outcomes of the conversation we had, of the things that you are now targeting? Because Carl equally is going to Scorpion Nationals. Carl and Dave are aiming to try and be successful with the gold gong around their neck. What actually now have you decided in this self-preparation fitness space you're going to try and target specifically so you can measure that performance?
Yeah, okay. So I'm just going to rewind slightly. It was watching the rerun of this session 2 Mondays ago when Catherine said her piece about the fitness and you spelt it out what that might take, that I had a bolt between the eyes and panicked and thought there's no way I could handle that. So I started some conversations up, not least with you, Catherine, my personal trainer, Dave, who I sail with, and a few others. And it came to having that conversation we had last week, where we identified, as you say, the piece around the benchmarking and what would need to happen. And very quickly, like all these things, as soon as you start to talk about it, things happen. So I've done my first fitness test this morning to benchmark. And then hopefully at the weekend, if the weather's right, I'm going to get out on my aero and go and do some hiking tests, just drag and see how long I can hold, and film myself as well, holding posture for us, see what we can do. So some other stuff's come around this as well through Catherine, some of her workmates. There's something going on this month called the Plank Challenge, which you might have heard of. It's a fight. The idea is by the end of March to get up to 5 minutes on a plank, either forearm or straight arm. So coach at the top there is doing all right. It's Catherine and I have both posted a time each, haven't we? And we're sort of getting into it. So the fitness plans come through from my trainer. I've had another consultation with her this morning, or last night, sorry, about putting all this together. So what that looks like for me is I'm running now in 12-week blocks effectively up to the nationals, and in 3-4 week cycles within those blocks, like as Hugh's advised. And we're monitoring after each sort of 4-week block where we're at, testing again, and then seeing what refinements need to be put in place to take it forward, and making sure it's, I mean, Dave and I, the reason I'm late on this call is Dave and I have just spent 2 hours speaking to an endurance cyclist about this stuff as well. And he sort of reaffirmed exactly the stuff that Hugh was telling us and the coaching was telling us. And the big thing from him was don't overcook it, by the way, especially as you're in our 50s. And it was really, about doing stuff you enjoy as well to get towards the fitness. So Dave likes cycling, I like rowing and swimming and running. I don't like cycling. So we do the things that suit us.
Yeah. So I suppose the reason I got those two guys to speak to that is because I said, if you want to win the nationals, you need to be able to hike upwind for 90 minutes each day for 6 days. And both the guys went, whoa, that's quite a lot of hiking. And it is a lot of hiking. But as Carl said, once you start breaking it down into chunks, which is basically what this performance profile attitude is about, is like for the boat handling side of things on the Musto skiff, it can seem to be a big mountain. Like it gets windy or whatever. But actually, once we start going, okay, what do we need to look like at the end of this boat handling journey? Let's get super, super specific about what I need to look like. Like Carl and Catherine have gone, okay, in my self-preparation piece, what do I need to look like? And they need to look like they can hike upwind for 90 minutes a day for 6 days on a bounce is what their target is. And then it's about, okay, if that's 90 minutes a day for 6 days, actually, what does that mean on how long I need to be able to hike off the start line? So Carl, what's that now? What's the target you're working to?
30 seconds. No, about 5 to 7 minutes. Yeah. And it's percentage maximum, isn't it? You'll never give flat out, but are you working at 80% maximum, whatever it is, of maximum writing? What's realistic? And when do you need to put the effort in?
So it's all about us getting perspective of little chunks of learning you can do to make that possible to achieve the overall outcome of the journey. And I'll leave you with just a little analogy. So when we think about what we're doing in our sport and how we're trying to learn and improve, it's like going on a voyage. Yeah, we all love the sailing analogies, but it's like being in a voyage. Right now, what we're doing here is we're standing on the beach, like Captain like Scott going to the Arctic, and we're going, what's our inventory? What have we got in the stores? What have we got as the boat? What have we got as all our equipment? What have we got? What have we got under the tank of the of the hood of the car if we're going into a car race, whatever? What are all the aspects that make up our performance? Because Scott going to the Antarctic was going to be going there all by himself and wasn't going to have any help. Right, so the more we inventoried and analysed what that all means, the more likelihood it is of us being successful. And then once it is that we go on the journey, then we need to, the next step is obviously to make sure we do all our training, our practice, to be prepared for when we go on the journey, that we get to the end point. Yeah, but by making sure it's absolutely crystal about what our learning is, what our performance in the middle here, what our DNA of us being successful standing on the podium is, and ideally you'd write down here with absolute clarity what I need to look like on the podium, or when I've been successful, what that is. Then that makes it super sticky in your head about being able to refer back to that. And I'd just like to finish by reminding us what Tony said at the beginning. So Tony said, Tony wanted to make sure that he could deliver an improved physical performance to be able to sail the boat better. And he'd broken it all down into various different bits that meant it was like, in lockdown, I put on this much, I need to lose it. If I need to lose it, I need to gain strength and resilience and fitness, and I need to make sure that I'm more agile. Yeah. So Tony's got a really clear view in this piece here of what he looks like when he gets to the end of this journey. And it doesn't have to be winning a nationals. It can be as specific as winning that target of a personal goal of improvement. And the journey, the voyage that Tony's going on is just as valid, as important as anybody else in terms of what they're trying to achieve. But when we get into the nitty gritty and the doing, we need to have a plan. And some of these tools help us break things down in a way that gives us a little prioritization tool to help us improve the plan. And next week, the next occasion I get to talk to you, will be about how we then periodize all of the bits of what we do when we do it, to make all the bits join together into a fluid process that allows us to get to that vision of success and the vision of us at the end of the journey. Has anybody got any questions? Silence is golden.
Hugh, can I just add something, Hugh?
Yep.
You spoke about how people are improving, and we're doing our best to kind of create a culture of coaching here. And I know the likes of Carl and Gareth doing this and going out and coaching on a 1-to-1 or 1-to-3 basis. And I know that particular experience I saw Simon being coached by Gareth, and then the video, oh, you don't mind, I saw the videos after Simon, but it was just, that is all happening now in the club, that kind of method of coaching and that kind of improvement. And it strikes me when Mike's saying he's making slow progress, there's things there, I'm guessing, that would improve that process and speed up that process. So I'm not trying to push Mike into being coached, but you see it happening. And I think that's what we want to try to encourage.
I can't encourage it enough, everyone. It's brilliant. It worked well for me, and I love doing it for others. So, Mike, yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Find a mustard skiff expert. There's plenty about.
I suppose the other bit for me that is really important in this whole process, which is something that actually I mentioned to Carl the other day, is you guys are the community that's going to support and challenge each other to do all the things you want to try and do and achieve. And actually, by sharing and engaging with each other, you hold each other to account, and you also make it a really vibrant, exciting environment to better your proposition. So you guys being on this call tonight is part of you helping yourself and everybody else get better. And the more that the community side of that happens, the better that is, because there's nothing more engaging than having a little target that you've got A, people shouting you calling to help you achieve, but B, people understanding some of the pitfalls as well as the successes, and then you asking some questions and they've got a collaboration with you around something that just sometimes having a chance to talk to somebody about something you can kind of share some stuff on makes a huge difference. So do share, do engage, do do make yourself vulnerable, but in a way that allows you to get better, because that's how we succeed.
I'd second that. I've thought of very little else for the last 2 weeks. The enthusiasm that I've suddenly got out of that session, and just continuing and seeing what people are doing, you know, sharing knowledge and helping each other. It's just it's great. I want to ask one question.
Yeah.
Hiking bench, yes or no?
Yes.
Oh.
Okay, let me clarify that. Okay, so fitness is about being able to do two things. So when we're saying
we've lost him.
We'll never know. What he meant to say was no hiking bench.
I think he meant no.
Don't do it.
He did say to me yes the other day. It was
Was he talking about hiking there?
Hiking bench, yeah. What was interesting he came up with is because on a hiking bench it's so much different to doing it in real life. And the thing he came up with on that was, on the boat you're actually getting your legs massaged as the boat's going up and down on the waves. It's actually releasing, you know, gravity's doing the job of helping release the lactics. Whereas when you lock out on a hiking bench, you don't last very long, do you? And you're in a funny posture unless you've actually got a proper sheet and a tiller to mimic how much you're supporting yourself. It's quite a tricky thing. But yeah, no, he was all for that. But then this conversation I've just had, we've just decided it's boring. I think, to be honest, do something, and as long as it works for you, I think that's key. But Hugh will say
all exercise is boring if you're not really enjoying it.
Yeah, it's when you see the gains afterwards, isn't it? When you can feel it, you know, in the sailing's not hurting anymore, you're recovering quicker, or whatever it is around that.
I think you might just have got out of the hiking bench there, Henry.
No, say yes to Hugh. It's all right. Keep it.
I just don't want one.
But it's so funny because I sold mine to Pete Barton, which I think is now under a pile of clothes in Pete's office, isn't it, Pete? And Hugh's first words to me were, "Go and buy it back."
I'm
using it.
The hiking bench is a terrible piece of equipment. Just go and get yourself a proper trapeze line.
That's right, exactly. Well, that's what making me think I'm a trapeze.
Yeah, but then I'd have all those boat handling problems. Boat handling's fine, but no problems there.
It's one or the other, isn't it?
But I don't think we're going to get Hugh back, but I think he'd more or less finished. To be honest, I think he was coming to the end. So,
Pete, have you got? Pete's good at this stuff. What are your thoughts on hiking and getting yourself match fit? Unmute, darling.
Oh man.
My layman's view is, well, there's no substitute for getting out in a boat, because that's exactly the same muscles as you use. So if you're going to train for a 45-minute race, there's no better way to practice than doing a 45-minute race. If ever I get to the gym, I try and practice the muscles I'd use hiking. So it's the muscles in your legs. So find something which does those muscles without overdoing it. And think of how long you've got to do it for, and just try and replicate exactly what you do in the boat. And if you're going to make a hiking bench, get the dimensions all right so that it's just like your boat. And the guys who make hiking benches are pretty good at covering most classes now, or having a solution, you know, for a laser, an aero, probably a solo.
Who's the guy that got us from?
It's a guy up on the East Coast, somewhere near Mersey Island.
What's his name? Yeah.
He's easily findable on the web, hikingbench.co.uk or something. So he makes one exactly the same molding as an aero and the same molding as a laser and lots of other classes. So they're customized for it. And you'd have to find somebody who knows to say what sort of exercise you should do on your hiking bench. I hear kind of going for it in sprints is quite a good thing. I try and hang there and basically do sit-ups on it, just trying to get my my stomach muscles in shape. And that's quite good, and it's got to be fun.
No
so
phantom
I mean,
sailor ever.
if you're hanging on your hiking bench, you know, get some YouTube videos to watch while you're doing it. And if a YouTube video is 10 minutes, then that's a good time goal to try and achieve on it, isn't it?
So there is one bit of advice which I think the hiking bench guy gives, which is it's much better to sit on it for a shorter period with exactly the right posture than try and sit there, but you get fatigue because it is about the muscle memory a bit. So you're much better doing 30 seconds exactly right and then having a break rather than trying to sit there 5 minutes and slowly sagging because your muscles will start to remember the wrong posture. So that's something to, if you're super keen and get one. I've got one. I used it twice and it's hanging on the wall and I keep hitting my head on it.
What I try and do kind of figure of eight. So this is like I'm going for the waves, putting my shoulders forwards and backwards. So I'll go up and forwards, down and backwards, and do like a whole figure of eight motion so that I'm kind of twisting as well. But you've got to be careful too.
I mean, I did fall out of love with mine after about 10 minutes. Hikingbench.com is.
It's mine now.
It's yours now. Yeah. That's where you keep your clothes.
If you're a member of the gym,
and you can make it more fun. So you can rig up a main sheet and you can rig up a tiller extension because there's so much muscle memory in main sheet and tiller. But if you've got those two there, then you can do those clever finger tricks of your main sheet and your tiller is just changing hands. And when I built my own one for the Moth, and I had 2 tiller extensions and 2 main sheets, so I could do it on both tacks without building 2 hiking benches. And in the Moth, you've got a really clever throw the tiller up in the air and catch it again with the other hand technique. And I could practice it on a scale version, on a replica hiking bench.
Cheers, Pete.
There you go. Okay, folks. Are we? I think we're done now.
I think we're there. I think Hugh's internet's cut off, like he did on his training last night.
I've got to go away and visualize being a weapon downwind. Now,
you are a weapon, Tony.
I don't know why we're laughing.
We can all be weapons.
He's obviously never seen me sail, so I don't know.
We can all be weapons.
Okay, thanks so much, folks. Good to see you all.
Thanks a lot.
No, bye.
See you Wednesday, everyone. Bye.
See you.
Bye.
See you all.